Hello makeup lovers, how are you guys doing today? So I am excited for this video because I'm going to be doing an in-depth explanation of how I personally do my cut creases. And the reason I wanted to do this is because I do have hooded eyes, and a lot of times I see people who have hooded eyes say that they cannot do cut creases, they don't look good on them, different things, and everyone's eyes are different, so whatever you feel flatters you. I mean, makeup is all about what makes you happy, but if you do really want to be able to do cut creases, I definitely don't say don't cut them out altogether just because you have hooded eyes. For me personally, I think a half cut crease is where it's at. I always do about this much and then I blend in, and I keep the darker shade here because my crease is the whole thing is hooded, but where it's really bad is right here on the outer portion. So I find that I can really get away with a half cut crease. It makes my eyelids look a lot bigger, and I just have been practicing doing cut creases a lot lately, so I wanted to share this with you guys because it's definitely doable. And I wanted to say also, whenever I see people do videos specifically for hooded eyes, people always say, you don't really have hooded eyes. And I don't know if anyone's gonna say that to me, but I definitely do. When I have makeup on like this, it looks a million times better. But if I'm whenever I'm sitting on my phone and I'm looking at something and I look like this, literally my eyes are so hooded you can't even see my eyelids with different facial expressions or whatever, or when I'm not wearing makeup, when my face is resting naturally is what I mean. So you can see my eyelids almost completely go away, but when I'm talking and I'm like, oh, then obviously I lift my eyebrows and you can see a lot more. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump on into the tutorial. So I already have one eye done just to save time. So the primer that I'm going to be using is the P. Louise base in the shade 0.5. This is just the shade that works best for me. You could also get shade 0. That's a super white shade, and that would be amazing for whenever you want a really bold, colorful eye to make the shades more vibrant. But I really enjoy this primer. I haven't had any problems with it. So I'm going to go ahead and use that, and I'm just going to take just a touch. I'm going to go ahead and take the F75 brush from Sigma. It just looks like this. It is a concealer brush, and it's supposed to be a dupe for the MAC one that everyone uses, but MAC's not cruelty free. And then I'm just going to go ahead and pat that on to get it tacky and just to get the most coverage. My son kicked me in the face yesterday accidentally, and I didn't think much about it, but now that I'm patting over my eye right here, it feels really bruised. It does not feel great. So this step is really extra and not related to the tutorial at all, but I just take another eyeshadow primer. This is the Essence I Love Color, and I'm literally only using it because I like the applicator, and I'm just going to clean underneath. Oh, dang it, that's too much product. Underneath my brows. So I am not going to set my eyelid because I do not have oily eyelids, and I feel like it makes the eyeshadow more pigmented if you don't. I'm going to be using the Emily Edit palette today from Makeup Revolution because you guys requested that I use this more. Here's what it looks like. And really quickly, I'm just going to show you the colors that I'm going to go in with so I don't have to keep putting the palette up and down. So I'm going to use this shade right here, Hobby, as my transition. It's just a neutral brown. I'm going to deepen it up a little bit with this brown right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and use Corduroy, the green, in my crease. And then the outer V, I'm going to use the black shade. And then on the lid, I'm going to use a combination of these two greens right here. Before I start applying the shadow with the P. Louise base, I always go in and tap it out with my finger right before I apply because it can crease a little bit because you're not setting it. But I basically pat the shadow on and set it with the shadow, I guess. So I'm taking Hobby, the light brown, just on a Morphe M50, sorry. This is a great brush if you have hooded eyes because it really gets right in the crease and blends really well. It is a little bit scratchy, but I really like the shape of it. So I'm just going to kind of throw that on and build it up just a little bit. So next I'm going to use one of my favorite brushes of all time. This is the Morphe M507. Just looks like this. Another amazing brush if you have hooded eyes. It's very tiny, very pointed, and it gets you exactly where you want to go. If you want to go exactly in the outer V, through the crease. I've used this to use as a lid shade. I've used it for my inner corner. I've done my lower lash line with this. I can literally do an entire look with this brush. I love it so much. You could highlight your brow bone with it. It's just, honestly, I'm not some big Morphe kind of person, but this brush really is amazing and I love the shape of it and I feel like it's soft. And I don't know, I just really recommend this. I think it's like $5. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that really nice brown shade called Apartment, and I'm gonna start off in the outer V and then just go ahead and bring it through the crease. So one of the things that I've found from doing hooded eyes with, for doing a cut crease with hooded eyes, is that if you want to bring the cut crease higher, so therefore you also want to bring the darker shades higher. I used to keep my dark shades really low, but if you bring them higher, it makes your eyes look a little bit bigger, and it also makes sure that the color is there when you cut your crease so that you can still see it peeking through. This shade is more of a transition. It's not as important for it to be seen. So I just kind of throw that on, and then I'm going to go in with the previous brush and just blend. Now I picked up corduroy, and I'm going to start off on my outer V again just because that's just what I like to do. And then I'm going to bring it into my entire crease because I want you to be able to see this shade. If you want this shade to show up more green, don't go in with the darker brown, just go in with the green and be very soft as you blend it upwards. Because obviously you can see like it's showing green, but it's a little bit more of a neutral eye. It's not quite as dramatic, but if you want it to be very vibrant green, don't go in with the brown first. Just throw that on, and then I go in with my previous brush and just blend out the edges. I am going to pack a little bit more of this shade on because I do want it to show up nice and vibrant. My favorite way to blend is I go back and forth in between shadows and brushes. Taking a touch more of corduroy and just blending that on the outer V and then through the crease again. Another thing I wanted to say about having a darker shade a little bit higher is that because we have a cut crease, or if you're watching this and you have a cut crease and you're trying to get some tips, compared to other eye shapes, if they don't add as much shadow, they naturally have more of a crease right here, so it looks fine, it looks normal, like it kind of just, it blends together. It looks, I don't know how to describe it, it still looks seamless. But because our crease is lower, you want to bring that darker shade in a bit more. At least, you know, like I'm sure I'll say it in the intro that this is just how I like to do it, just my personal opinion of what I find flattering on me. And hopefully it can help you guys out if you feel overwhelmed by a cut crease. I go ahead and take the dark and early black shade, and I was actually surprised at how pigmented this is. I'm going to focus this only on the outer V just to add a little bit of extra deepness, and then just slightly blending it. Gonna go back in with the previous brush. Alright, so now comes the difficult part, and that is actually cutting the crease. I'm going to be using the P. Louise base again, and I feel like this base has like changed my cut crease life. Sometimes I use other concealers, I use other bases, and it works out okay, but something about the consistency of this primer just helps so much. I feel like it just, I don't even know how to describe it. I just truly enjoy it. So I am going to go into the Sigma brush. I grabbed this and I wanted to try it, but honestly, if you have any flat like concealer brush that looks like this, that has a rounded edge, that's what I prefer. And also I think my mistake for a while is that I went in with tiny brushes and I was trying to do like these perfect lines with a tiny little brush. And if you think about it, getting a tiny brush to do perfect and to have it both like on the same, like equal, it's just a little bit harder, especially if you're not like super amazingly talented like some people. Whereas a big brush, it's so much easier to just cover all that space really quickly and to get the same height of a cut crease. And I just, for the longest time, I thought small brush. I kept buying the smallest brushes I could find, and then I saw someone use a giant brush and I was like, okay, I've seen people use even bigger brushes than that, and I really want to try even a bigger one. But whatever you can find about this size, I feel like is really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to put a little bit of product on the brush. Doesn't have to be a whole bunch. That might even be a little bit too much, but that's fine. I'll pat it out. And then the trick that I found that really helps is, well, actually you can go ahead and kind of take it on the back of your hand and work it in the brush a little bit. That does help some. But if you take it on your lid like this, right, you just kind of take it on, and then, well, actually let me do a little more. And then you look up. and then look down. You can see exactly where your cut crease, when you look all the way up because you have hooded eyes, you can see where the shadow will go so that you can not transfer, and it just literally all you have to do is fill it in now. It's honestly the easiest trick, and I normally only go about to here, so about like I stop at like if I'm looking straight forward, the outer part of your pupil, or geez, not pupil, iris, that's about where I stop. So I leave about 1/3 of my lid. This outer V portion, I just let that go. Don't even go there, because that's where my eye gets really hooded, right here. So if I bring it in, it doesn't look flattering to me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pat that on. So there you can see how easy it was to cut my crease and how soft and just it was just so easy. And it does take practice. I've been practicing cut creases for years, but these few steps, these tricks that I'm using have completely changed up my game. So last but not least, you don't want to leave it like this, because then it'll just kind of, it looks like a harsh line. So if there's like whatever's left on the brush, I'll kind of just pat over just a little bit. You don't want to really have product on the brush for this part. Just want to slightly pat, and then sometimes I'll take my finger and just blend in between, and that does help just a little bit. And at this point you can do different things. You can go in with the deepest shade that you used, this dark like black, or you could use a dark green and kind of bring it inwards. You can do all different things at this point. You could do a number of shades across the lid. You could do like a rainbow. You could do just one shade all the way across. I'm gonna do 2 shades just to show you. Like I said, a lot of times I go in with a deeper shade right there, and actually, you know what, I'll just do it really quickly. Whatever's left over on the brush, I'm just gonna pat on that outer part right there, just to make it seamless. And I'm gonna take a flat, kind of flat shader brush. This one has a little bit more texture on it, so I feel like it picks the Emily Edit shadows up really well. And this one is just the BH Cosmetics 103. I think it's in like their Eye Essentials kit, but honestly, any shader brush that you have will work. So I'm gonna pick up Side Hustle, the darker green shade, and I'm gonna go ahead and just pat that on my outer corner. This shade does have just a touch of fallout, which is fine. And here, well, let me just do this part real quick. I'm gonna tell you guys one more thing. You can see I talked for a while, and my crease is creasing a little bit right now, because the P. Louise base does crease if you take time. But I don't mind, because I feel like it's so good. So I just take my brush and I just pat over it before I set it with shadow, because if you set it down when it's creased, it's going to stay creased, and there's really nothing you can do to fix it after you made that mistake. So once I have that deep green down, I'm going to take the lighter green, which is called Grateful. And can I just like say how like amazing it is that she's taking like, I don't know, green, you think of green, you think of money, and then to do Grateful as a name, I don't know, I love that. Look how beautiful that shade is. And I'm just going to go ahead and pat that all over the rest of my lid and blend it into the darker green. When it comes to getting really up there where the crease is cut, you can go in with a more precise brush to really get like keep that line if you need to. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It just depends on whatever flat shader brush I'm using. This one actually like hugs the line really, really well, so I didn't have to on this side, but whatever you're comfortable with. There's how it's looking. I feel like the glitter got a little too high, so I'm going to take my brush that I use for the mattes and just kind of blend over right here. So there you go. There is how you make a super, super easy cut crease. I am going to go ahead and do some liner and some lashes. Going to finish up my face real quick, and then I'll be back to show you how to do the lower lash line, the inner corner highlight, not because it's really an advanced technique, but just to finish up the eye look so you guys can see what I do personally. I don't really do in-depth tutorial teaching type videos like this often, so I want to do it right and full, so I'll be right back. Low-key, okay, I'm a mess. I never do my eyes at separate times, and like I brought the green up higher here, so I was like blending it here, but now I like blended the cut crease line, and this line is like all blended, and this one's like slaying. So and then we're just gonna have to excuse the inner part of this lash for not wanting to stay on. It's that kind of day. So I'm gonna take a bit of corduroy, the really bright, well, dark bright green shade, and I'm gonna put that along the entire lower lash line. And for the inner part, I'm gonna take a little bit more of Grateful and just pop that right here. Just gonna add some black in my waterline. Gonna add some mascara. And then I'm gonna take this highlight shade right here called Oh Heavens. I live for a good pencil brush, so I'm just gonna pop that on my inner corner right here. And then whatever's left over on the brush, just going to lightly highlight the very, like the highest point of my brow bone. So this is the finished eye look. Alright guys, so this is the end of the video. I tried to fix this eye a little bit because, like I said, I over blended it because I thought that I put the green up higher on this side, and I should never ever do my eyes at 2 separate times. It always ends up, it's just not a good idea for me. I'm so bad at doing the same thing. But I do really like how it turned out. I think it's super pretty, and I really hope this was helpful for y'all. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So if you did enjoy this video, if you found it helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.